welcome Gideon to episode number 5 of the Auto Trends podcast. How are we doing today?
Yeah, what's up, Lucas? How you doing, man? Good to see you. I know we're rolling in from the weekend, President's Day.
Absolutely.
How's everything going? You doing all right?
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, it's almost the end of February already. Q1 of 2024 is coming to a quick end in a month or so.
It's crazy. I know it's really crazy. You just get in it, you head down, it's time flies. Gosh, I've got a daughter who's just two. She turned two in January, and shoot, I think I actually told you about this. My wife and I are expecting another on the way. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Congratulations, man. That's
yeah,
exciting news.
yeah.
Very exciting news.
Well, I've got to trade in the Lambo for a
Oh,
minivan now, so I'm
well,
not too happy about that.
that's it. That's it. That's a sacrifice. That's a sacrifice. Well, we'll have her on what in about 8, 9 months from now. Then
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
we'll book her a slot.
She'll probably be taking over the place in about
Yeah.
8 months or so.
We'll probably hear her in the background at least on all the podcasts. I'm sure we'll hear her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you hear a loud slap or a loud thump, it's not abuse. It's
that's right.
actually parenting 101.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
But I
Exactly.
see I see you pulled in
So
the Ferrari today, huh? You
I
pulled
did,
up the old
unfortunately.
lady.
Yeah, I was running behind, getting here, and I just jumped out of the car real quick and threw my camera on the phone, and here I am. Yeah, it's parked out back. It's okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, just don't throw any rocks at it, don't want to
exactly.
scratch it up.
It's pretty quiet on the
Oh,
roads. I noticed behind me though today. I haven't seen many people walking by, and the roads seem pretty quiet where I am, so it's all right. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. Now, well, awesome, man. Well, I think, today it's really our focus today is just about the industry. I think we really want to just kind of position ourselves as consumers. And just talk about where we're at with the industry, things that are going on. I mean, I'm just reading through financial reports on some of your big companies. Everyone's growing,
Yep. Yep.
and I think really we just kind of dive into where is the industry at, what's driving the growth,
Yep.
and so as a consumer, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think is driving the growth? Why are all automotive large companies, Genuine Parts Company, Zone, I mean, Bosch, I mean, across the board are all seeing year over year growth, record growth, you know? I don't
It's
know, Lucas.
amazing. I
Your
mean,
take.
yeah, ever since COVID, I mean, I'm in touch with a lot of parts managers, lots of fixed op directors, that, both you and I are talking to on a daily basis. And now for, a good couple of years, we're seeing year over year and, they're positive, you're talking to them. Oh, we just had the best month we ever had. Look, we
Mhm.
just finished the best quarter we ever had. We know next year is going to be even better. So this is fantastic, for the industry that, we're seeing this growth. And we obviously everybody just hopes that it continues to go that way. Um, but I think there's opportunities that are out there that with the economical situation previously with COVID, that are just giving the consumers now a little bit more confidence as well, and a lot more do-it-yourself guys. For the auto parts industry guys, a lot more do-it-yourself guys are doing it from home. Direct to consumer is hot. People are ordering parts online, ordering from manufacturers, ordering from distributors, and getting stuff delivered directly to their house and doing it themselves. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, well, I know just by with personal experience, 2020, 2020, when COVID hit, we at the time, and I'm not won't share any names, but we had a partnership with Amazon, as most people do, right?
Mhm.
But also not even just Amazon, all of our selling channels. When COVID happened, it was the wildest thing because we went from an average order, trend to literally overnight, every single sales channel spiked from a distribution perspective.
Right.
And I know Amazon was, that was around the time that they were actually, when COVID hit, they actually were denying and pushing out automotive, that sector, and they were bringing in household and cleaning supplies and things that were, relevant to the crisis, I guess, if we want to even say it was a crisis. I think it was probably a little inflated, but it was a crisis nonetheless.
Yep.
And that drove, but I think what we've also seen is that trend, it definitely cooled. But what we are seeing is, to your point, when you have major companies that are reporting year over year growth, right? Um, that what's driving that? You know, I look at it as, when you look at what's driving that, I think you look at the state of the economic times. You look at cost of capital, right?
Yep.
I can just tell you, I mean, you look at home prices, right? You look at, to finance a home, 2%, 3%, right? A lot of people have that cost of capital today. And hell, even cars, if you're going out and buying a new car, 0% interest, right? For
Yep.
6.
Yep.
And now you're looking at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So as cost of capital, and this is one thing I've always said in the industry, I think is, this is actually why I love the industry. It's such a bulletproof industry, and we're working for the working class, is when the economy contracts, right? Cost of capital gets expensive. The automotive parts industry actually expands.
Right.
Why? When you look at the average age of a vehicle, I mean, if you just look at, I have a little chart here. In 2013, 11.4 years, right? Was the
Exactly.
average age of a vehicle. Then when
Yep.
you go to 2020, okay, that was heightened of COVID year, 11.9. So it's increasing a little bit.
Yep.
And then you go to 2024, 12.7 years.
Yep.
Then next year, it's going to be 12.9.
Yep.
So cost of capital, people, our technology, our cars getting better.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Exactly. No, right. Exactly. No, that's the question. It'll be interesting to see where those buyers now go from these older vehicles that they have on the road that likely obviously are gasoline, intake vehicles. Are they going to go to the EV market? Are they going to look at the hydrogen market? Are they, what market are they going to look at now when they do go to purchase a new vehicle? And then also, I think it's we get lots of questions about, okay, well, Lucas, we own a garage, or, we're focused on gasoline engine vehicles. But how really do we prepare for the future, for the future of electric vehicles? How does our garage possibly, what do we do? Like, what infrastructure do we need? We know
Mhm.
at some point, perhaps, we're going to have to make that transition towards, being able to look after electric vehicles with their parts and components and all these things. And obviously, you look at the difference in the amount of parts in an electric vehicle compared to a conventional gas vehicle. I mean,
Well,
it's wildly different. Yeah.
yeah. Well, so a few things. When you think of like the EV market, you're starting to see the government, which they were pushing, obviously EV. We're starting to see that cool,
Right. Yep.
because we have a lot of lots that are actually just building up on electric. And again, my opinion, I don't, I'm not a fairy teller. I don't tell the future, but um, I think there's only going to be a few EV companies that are really good at it, that become very profitable and succeed. I think Tesla's ahead of the game, of course, and I think many would probably support that. But I think you have a lot of automakers that are investing in EV. Like I just read a report with Lexus, right? Their
Yep.
Lexus EV, they're dropping their price. They're dropping their price. We can't move these, and I don't know. I mean, is it because I'm a Lexus guy, right through and through? I love Lexus.
Sure.
I think it's
Yep.
freaking phenomenal car. I love Toyota, phenomenal man. Those guys just they do a great job.
Yep.
Their cars are bulletproof, and if I'm going back into the Lexus dealership to buy a new vehicle, man, I'm not sold on EV with Lexus. I'm probably going to go with like a Tesla.
Yep.
Um, just because like I want a run rate here, man. I want to make sure this thing actually does what it says it's going to do. But
Exactly.
we're seeing it cool across the board. And then to your second point is the parts. I'm a big believer that with innovation and disruption, industries reinvent themselves from a labor perspective, right? You just
Yep.
reshift labor to some degree. I don't believe you may lose some jobs, but generally speaking, I think it just reshifts, right? We have to make a living. Um, but when you look at like the combustion engine and gasoline, you have think about all the parts you have. On average, roughly 4,000 parts that can be serviced on the vehicle. Spark
Yep.
plugs, seals. Like how many
Exactly.
times you're like, ah, shit, we broke down, and it's like a $3 piece that gets you back up and running. And
Yep.
then in the EV side, you have under 50 components that are replaceable. Because if you think about it, tires, rotors, brakes, okay, and it's also regenerative braking as well. So those
Yep.
parts are not going out as fast because the car's automatically powering down. Obviously, your
Yep.
battery, your side panels, some things inside, but think about it. There's not a lot that
That's it.
to replace. So I don't know.
No. Yeah, and because and again, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer right now, but I just know that's a question that we get a lot from these dealerships, from all sorts of people that are saying, when do we look at this transition, or when should we, to be ahead of the game, when do we tell our service department, okay, or our parts department, right, we need to now start looking at stocking some of these different items for the EV vehicles that or being able to train our staff, right? If we start to get seeing these come in, or inquiries for these start coming in, when do we take that proactive approach? And I don't necessarily think right now there's a right or wrong answer to that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it's I think it's all filled with risk. You're going to have winners and losers. You always do, right? Anyone who
Yep.
says everyone gets a ribbon is full of shit, my
Yep.
opinion. But like,
Yep.
there's going to be winners and losers.
Sure.
Now,
Ye-
I think when you look at that market, so from the parts perspective is very interesting because if you think about it, the new car dealers and OEs are typically servicing vehicles that are within warranty, right? So
Yep.
0 to 6 years, something in there.
Yep.
If you look at their run rate from when the vehicle goes out of warranty to now we're charging the customer's got to pay for the whole thing, they lose that customer at an astonishing rate
Yep.
to your aftermarket repair facilities, right? Your independents, right? Your 4 bay guys. I own one shop. I own, and then that vehicle is largely serviced from a parts perspective from your aftermarket distribution,
Yep.
which is your aftermarket manufacturers, your distribution. They're getting the part there with you within a few hours.
Yep.
And when we look at technology and parts e-commerce, the distribution is largely fulfilling majority of those orders. Some manufacturers will fulfill direct, but not the big ones. The big ones typically won't. Um, so I don't know. It's a tough question, right? Like, when do you
No,
begin
it
to
is.
think you can transition? Like hydrogen. I know you mentioned hydrogen earlier. Like,
Yep.
God,
It's big in
selfishly,
California.
well,
Not
kind
big in California, but that would be the biggest market, I would
that it
say, in the
well that
US.
no
you know
100%. But if you also look at the California legislation, I want to say like 10 years ago, they like wrote legislation to have like over 100 hydrogen stations. I think they're at like
Yep.
50 or 60.
Yep.
Um, but I always struggle with like mandates.
Right.
People don't like mandates. Like I
No,
think our generally society, like, don't tell me what I need to do. Like, I'll do it on
that's
my
right.
own terms. I
That's
think
right.
give me the best option, but let me do it on my own terms. And so mandates, I always
Exactly.
feel like are just they rub. I think generally some people love mandates. Don't get me wrong. Some people
Yep.
love just tell me what to do,
Sure.
father.
Yeah, yeah. Of
Um,
course they follow. Yeah, yeah. Of course.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Tell me
Yeah.
where.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
But
And just like to kind
generally,
of
yeah.
oh, go ahead. No, go
No, no,
ahead. I
no,
was
no,
just
no,
going to
no,
say,
no, no.
just to
You go ahead.
expand what you were talking about before about the parts. In regards to parts now, a lot of these, dealerships, well, even yeah, any sort of dealerships or aftermarket parts guys, they're really using data analytics and predictive maintenance, packages, to kind of predict as to when, let's say your car, for example, Gideon, we know Gideon's a good loyal customer. He comes in, does all of his warranty work, and he does his, all of his parts work, and he does his oil changes, and he does, all these things. But now, with predictive analytics and your data analytics through whatever system that you're using in your dealership or garage, you can kind of predict, well, Gideon will probably be here in about 2 or 3 months' time again for another oil change. Gideon, after that, his car is going to be at X number of kilometers, and probably within a few months, geez, he's going to need some new tires. He's going to need some new brakes. And to use that data, kind of predicting when you're going to come back, you as the dealership or you as the garage or you as the part supplier can be sending out these emails to your customers, and kind of giving them a heads up. And this could happen, just a few weeks in advance. And they could say, geez, I just remember getting an email from Gideon. I do need new brakes now. And geez, he had a great deal going on. You can pump offers to your customers and clients. That's great for you because that's providing you with a great sales channel there. And also from your customer's perspective, that's providing them with a great service because you could offer them your latest, greatest deals that's customized to what they need. It's not just a generic email going out that, look, we've got 50% off our oil changes today, but meanwhile, Gideon had an oil change done last week. So that's completely irrelevant to Gideon. But if you're sending them quality information and you're pumping them with this at the time when they need it, they think, geez, these guys are really genuinely concerned, or they're looking out for my best interests. And they're giving me these offers based on my own personal needs, not just them looking to fill their coffers by me coming into their garage. And that not only can be digitized through some sort of program, but they can have their own service representative or whoever you have at your place to call them personally and say, hey, geez, Mary, it's great. It's this time, your vehicle is this old, or I'm sure it's coming up to this. Just want to let you know some great things we've got going on down at our place. Um, so I think from a customer's perspective, it can be used as a really good tool, and on both sides.
I think it's a great point, and I think that if you look historically, you'd get those emails or whatnot, and it would be like you're just trimming, cutting coupons or whatnot. Um,
Exactly.
it with no rhyme or reason. But I think when you
Yep.
look at, we know the age of a vehicle, you have macro data that suggests I need this repair it done at this time and this time and this time, and you can help automate that and use that to your advantage because just as well as I do, customer service is never going to go anywhere, man. That human connection is never going to
Yep.
go anywhere. People love to laugh together. People love to feel connected. People love to feel a part of a group, and
Yep.
I think when
Because
you
we
look at,
always talk. Sorry to interrupt
no,
again,
go
but
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
no, we always talk, you and I, we kind of joke because how many emails do you get a day that are just junk? I mean, I don't make it past the subject line. If I
Hmm.
see any sort of email that comes into my inbox and it looks at all spammy, you could be saying, Lucas, I want to give you a free Ferrari. And it's 100% free, and I just want to drop it off at your doorstep or give you $1 million. And it could say that in the content of the email, but I wouldn't even make it that far. If I really don't know you or get, past the subject line of an email, it's automatically deleted. And even if I do get past the subject line and I do open the email, there's a very rare chance if I don't know you from Adam and I see that as some sort of spam email that's, just being kind of blown out. I don't get through the content even. So, having this personalized kind of approach, I think you're absolutely right that that's definitely never going to go away. But if you can have that dialogue really with your customers and not just kind of treat them as, whatever, just a number, customer number 1235 is
Hmm.
Gideon Williams, but they think, you receive a call or you received a personalized message, or, just, hey, Gideon, how are you doing? Understand your car is this old, this many kilometers now. I'm sure you've got a brake service coming up. Just want to let you know, here's what's going on. Down here, we've got this special on, and that's it. And you leave it at that. Just make them aware. And people appreciate that. It's when, you're getting pushed and pushed or spammed with emails and promotions and but just buy from me and then you never hear from me again. Fine,
Hmm.
I come down to, Gideon's dealership and I buy a brand new beautiful Toyota truck, and every time I come down when I'm thinking about buying the truck, everybody's high-fiving me and loving me, in the shop, and then finally I buy the car and then nobody really gives a shit, about Lucas
Hmm.
anymore. until I show back up for service or to buy something else, then they're happy to
Mhm.
see me. But I'm kind of forgotten. But if that
Well, I
customer
think
service goes on, it helps.
yeah, well, and I think there's data for that, and I think when you look at whether you're a dealership or you're an independent repair facility, these are all things that you can deploy to customer retention. Obviously, we talk a lot about parts on our podcast, and that's intertwined with basically all of these things. And I think it really just goes back to how you're servicing that customer. What you're doing that can potentially be an effective strategy, kind of to your point, versus just slamming them with a bunch of spam emails. I mean, that's kind of not really super effective. You just need to be more thoughtful, and I think as technology has continued to increase in our world, I see thoughtfulness actually. Sure, technology helps us in many ways, but I see the thoughtfulness starting to slowly go away. Right? I think we need to
Yep.
get back to how do we leverage, AI, and how do we leverage things that are smartly that help with our customers, but they're thoughtful. Right? The thoughtful
Yep.
piece of it, I think, is never going to leave. And this brings me to, I think, a pretty interesting topic. It's a little bit of a transition, but it's more about how parts companies are. If you look at it historically, right, parts companies were very just siloed, and distribution, and very much technology has never been a part of their business. And I think when
Yep.
you look at kind of what you were talking about on the service lane to now the parts side, um, I found, Genuine Parts Company is a company that I like to keep up with, and just kind of know. I was at MEMA, the Aftermarket Technology Conference last year, and Will Stengel, their president of GPC, who's I mean, I don't know the guy very well, but I listened to him speak, and he hit on something that resonated really well with me. And for some of our listeners that don't know who GPC or Genuine Parts Company are, multi-billion-dollar company. I'd say by definition they're a parts manufacturer distribution company, right? So they label their products as Genuine Parts Company. Napa, right? Have you ever, Napa? Everyone knows a
Yep.
Napa store in North America, right? You have, I want to say, just under 6,000 locations, 52 DCs. It's just a very large distribution network. And again, that's primarily aftermarket. And they have so many other subsidiaries. We don't have to get into it. That's because that's not the point. The point is, as a parts company, Will, um, he was speaking, and he needed to speak for 15, 20 minutes. But in those 15, 20 minutes, he said a quote that really stuck to me. And he said, um, parts companies will become technology companies in the future. So if you
Right.
think about that, he basically says,
Right.
we are at core a parts company that is servicing the dealerships. They're servicing the independent repair facilities. They're servicing, the folks who are touching the customer and actually getting the vehicle back up and running. And it's cool is that their objective, GPC, Genuine Parts Company, is to become a technology company.
Yep.
And companies in the parts industry of the future also will become technology companies.
Right.
And I think if you look at that as a whole and just as our industry in general, um, it resonates so well, right?
Sure it
Because
does.
you think about it, we talk all the time with manufacturers and distributors and e-tailers and resellers, and at the end of the day, there's one common piece that we see is lacking, and I've seen this actually since I came into this industry years back, is there's technology gaps all over the board. Lack of
Yep.
connectivity, right? Seamlessly. There's a lot of point solutions, lot of point solutions. It's easy to solution for one pain or one problem in your world.
Yep.
And so I don't know. I always go back, and I would love to gonna go hear him speak again because he's very, very just sharp, polished, well spoken.
Yep.
But yeah, and
But
that resonated. So if you're in the parts business at any level, you got to become a technology company.
yeah.
That's the future in our industry. Is if you're not becoming a technology company, you will find yourself behind the 8 ball because technology is driving the industry forward,
Yeah.
certainly not backward.
Your customers, for sure. We tell everybody that, your customers are online. That's where you need to reach them now. They're not coming down to the parts counter any longer. They are 100% online. And it's interesting, even watching, our friends that, are in the C-suite in these auto parts companies that are making very simple auto parts, but now you're looking at their social media campaigns that they're doing, or when we're talking to these executives, they're really trying to engage, their customers through social media. They're doing it by way of, comedy and memes and laughter and engaging in social ways. And, and you're thinking, well, this is a piston manufacturer. How can they possibly
Yeah.
engage with customers? But they're finding ways, and you're watching their stuff on Twitter and LinkedIn and these various social media platforms, but really they're doing their best, although they're simply manufacturing pistons. And how funny can that be, or how do you possibly engage with a person over that? But really they're engaging. And even with our successful parts e-tailers, what we're seeing is our most successful ones, when you talk to them about price, they'll say, by no means are we the cheapest. We're mid-range to sometimes even high range. And we'll say to some of them, geez, how do you get away with these prices? Because you've got all your competitors that are way down here in terms of price, and their kind of response is consistent. And they say, look, we don't get caught up on the price. We're providing the best customer service, the best customer care, with a platform that makes it so easy for our purchasers to go onto the platform, search by this type, make, model, vehicle, search by VIN number, search by this. So we make it so easy for our customers to purchase these parts that they're not going to go anywhere else. They can't compete with the technology that we're utilizing. They're doing this preventative maintenance, data, leveraging that data, leveraging the analytics and stuff that they're getting. So their customers, yeah, are they paying a little bit more? Absolutely, that's correct. Are they worried about it? Definitely not. So it's kind of, what customers do you want? Are you looking, for the customers that are only looking for the absolute cheapest parts where you're going to make the tiniest margin on? Or are you looking for the good customers like these guys have that are loyal customers for years and years that you're making the higher margin on? Maybe you don't need a million of them, but you need, tens of thousands of them. Where if you're competing to the bottom of the barrel, you know, you get other logistics issues that come along with that. I'd
Mhm.
much rather have 10,000 customers than I would 1 million customers and be making the exact same thing.
That's it, the net. Well, and I think it brings a point. The market's not decreasing, the market actually is increasing. If you
Right.
look at macro, I mean, okay, average age of a vehicle is almost 13 years old, right? Well, cost of capital is high. Okay, cost of capital is
Yep.
high, therefore people
Yep.
are holding their vehicle longer. I just actually sold a 12-year-old Lexus that was pristine, by the way. Hated to let it go, but we just didn't need it
Right.
anymore, and I
Right.
transitioned to a golf cart. you know,
Right.
um,
Yeah. Oh, the car looks nice behind you. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
You
Well,
did well.
that's a rental.
Business is good for getting. Get business is good. His margins are all right, guys. Yeah. Yeah. Don't be too worried.
I
Yeah.
already told you I'm having a second kid. I got to turn it in for the minivan.
That's it.
As long as I got a little place for my golf clubs, I'm happy.
That's it. Exactly. Exactly.
No, but when you look at market share, it's not going anywhere. You got to
Yeah.
just be creative on how you're finding growth. I mean, I'm looking through financial reports right now. Snap-on reports Q4 growth. O'Reilly growth. Bosch sales growth in 2023 amid challenges. GPC, right? I think I just touched on that. They delivered on growth, and some of their numbers, which are pretty macro. Q4 5.6 billion, 1.1 increase revenue, top line revenue. Net income 317 million, increase of 25.8%. Genuine parts company, right? Distribution automotive, they have a big market share. Growth. Earnings per share Q4 $2.26. 27% growth from last year. And then these are
Right.
some numbers I just think are staggering, right? You look at
Yep.
2023, right? This is overall 23 billion, up 4.5% from 2022, right? Cost of
Yep.
capital is increasing. The market share is actually growing, to be perfectly
Yep.
honest. Net income 1.3 billion. Earnings per share 9.33, up
Wow.
12.3% from last year, from 2022,
Wow.
right? So when we look
Wow.
at just those data, I mean, and that's fairly large data, but when you look at just the reporting metrics, Valvoline, right, reports
Yep.
Q1 growth. Eaton, growth. PACCAR, growth. I mean, Zone, same store sales increase 1.2%. You've got Continental, right? They're unveiling strategy to enhance value creation, right? So basically, what that basically is saying is they're looking at technology. And I think when you look at every single
Yep.
company, whether you're big, small, it doesn't matter. It's important that you look at technology. And as you know, Will Stengel said, by the way, if anyone has an opportunity to hear him speak or anything, I'd love to have him on. That would be a dream guy to have on. He's super sharp. Um, is no matter where you're at as a manufacturer, distributor, a dealer with a parts center, a lane, service center, independent repair facility, if you have to become a technology company, the service never goes away, but
Yes.
you got to begin to make um, take action and take steps towards becoming more technology focused because that's what's going to drive transactions.
Yeah. And
Um,
one thing I think that you said earlier that I'd like you to kind of expand on for everybody, because I think you've got a little bit more experience in this particular field. But I think when people go online, they're purchasing these parts from these e-tailers, or, through directly from the manufacturer, from a distributor, they can take advantage of some pretty unique financing options when they purchase online as well. And I think that's a big factor as well. So your customers can go online if they're ordering from you through a specific platform. It's not them having to go, walk into the dealership and say, "Here's 500 bucks. I need these parts," because I don't, I may not have 500 bucks, but I
mhm.
desperately need these repairs done on my vehicle, or I just want to make my vehicle look a lot more cooler, but I still don't have 500 bucks. But I can go online and purchase through various platforms and utilizing their payment methods, and don't pay for this long or don't pay for that long. And not that I'm advocating for that, because that, is double-edged sword in a lot of cases, and a lot
Mhm.
of times that does go sideways for people. But having those options available and used correctly, that's where online
Ye
e-tailers, retailers can leverage.
Yeah, yeah, so it's all always think of it as a seller of record. So behind the scenes, behind the guts of what you do as a business, you have distribution connections, right? You have all these things behind you. That's actually the true value of the program, of any type of program, right? If you're just throwing up a site and you're having being able to finance payments, so that's great. A lot of people can do that. But the true value is making sure that the guts behind your organization is a technology company, right? Or at least has some way of bringing the technology front and center.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, it's all of those things are really about what the seller wants to provide to their customer, right? Finance in 4 payments, finance in six months, and a lot of your payment gateways that are connected, right? PayPal, Authorize a Firm. I mean, there's a
Exactly.
lot of them out there. A
Yep.
lot of those offer that because for them it's a
Yep.
profit center. At the end of the day, if you don't pay
Exactly.
within 6 months, now you're charging a percentage. Now, I'm never for people paying more. I love the,
Of course.
great
No.
cost customer, get the part, get you up and running and going. But
Yep.
those are some factors that go in, and that's really just like 1/16th is very, very small. And when you look at technology and how it impacts your business. But I think as we kind of wind down and we're about up on time here, is if you're in the business, whether you're a manufacturer, a distribution, you're an e-tailer, a retailer, you're in the business at some level. As the quote from Will Stengel is, every automotive company must begin to take steps to be a technology company because that's the future. Anything else, Lucas?
Absolutely. No, 100% agree. Couldn't agree more. And again, if you're listening, you see our email address, info@autotrendsam.com. And again, any questions, please, please, please don't be afraid to reach out. I mean, we've had an amazing response for our last few. This is podcast, obviously, number 5. But the amount of questions and comments and stuff like that that we get, whether it be on LinkedIn or YouTube or our Twitter channel, I mean, as we get through this more and more, after we record each episode, more people are reaching out and, can you help me with this? Can you put me in touch? Do you know any manufacturers? Do you know any distributors? How do we get involved in getting more involved in online, e-tailing? We're interested in, what are the costs associated with it? And again, Gideon, I think we touched on it before. It's not as expensive as what people think.
Yeah.
People think it's going to be this massive undertaking that, oh my God, I don't know anything about e-commerce. I don't know how to get online. I don't even know how to, where do I start? How do I build a website? How do I, build these relationships with manufacturers, with the distributors? And then, I've got supply chain, issues. It's not, believe me, it's not all that complicated, because I'm not a tech person, and Gideon knows that very well. I am, probably, I don't know, somewhere in the middle between a non-techie and a techie, but very much in the middle to the lower end of it. But if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. But
That's it.
but definitely reach out to us, because don't be intimidated by it. And the price that you have in your head, I can guarantee you, it's half to a minimal amount, to get online, to get up and running, and it's not as labor intensive. You don't need to have 10
Yep.
staff running this operation.
Yep.
And I think that's the other thing, Gideon, that we hear a lot is, oh, look, I don't have the manpower. I can't afford the extra staff that we're going to need to do all this stuff. Really, we see highly, highly, highly successful people and organizations that are running a killer e-commerce platforms and making huge bucks, each month. And
Hmm.
they've got a 1 to 2 person operation. And a lot of, few cases,
Minimal. Yeah.
it's a husband and wife, isn't it, Gideon?
Yeah. Minimal. I mean,
I mean, and,
that's
and they're
yeah.
rocking and rolling it.
And that's on the small spectrum from like your e-tailers perspective. You start to get into
Exactly.
manufacturers and distributors. Obviously, there's some nuances, but we see it all.
Of course.
And I think the
Yep.
point is, as Lucas mentioned, to all of our listener subscribers, if you have any questions, reach out. If you have some value that you'd like to, provide to our industry through our platform, we'd welcome you as a guest on this show, and it's really all about you. So outside of that, guys, that's all we've got for you today. Again, anything you need, info@autotrendsam.com. Reach out to myself, Lucas, and we will see you next time.
All right. See you, Gideon.
Yep, see ya.